Welcome back to Morning Express. It's now 20 minutes to 7 right here on Morning Express. Later on, we're going to have Francis Olekaparo as the person of interest. And in case you have any questions for him, feel free to send them through via Twitter, and I will make sure that we post them to him. For now, we'd like to look at the dailies, and we'll start off. And joining me to do that is William Okech, Honorable William Okech. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And as usual, we're going to start off with the Standard, where we have some more allegations. Remember that Occupy IEBC is something that the CORD coalition has insisted is going to go on until the commissioners leave office.
Yes, that is right, certainly. So you have to give it to the opposition. They've been very adamant. They've been very insistent. You remember just the other week, a couple of weeks ago, a team of Jubilee MPs went to court to seek for injunctions to stop these demonstrations. Well, initially, the CORD brigade did not file papers in response, and orders were given out stopping them from participating in such sitting. But eventually, I think they were able to get their lawyers. They went for an inter-parties hearing, and those orders were lifted. They were allowed to demonstrate to the extent that they did not participate in violence.
Right.
Well, they kept their word. They were there yesterday. The CORD brigade, led by the three principals, were able to have a mini political rally there. Their members were addressed, but subsequently after that, tear gas. Yeah.
Well, according to the report that Chris Thairo filed yesterday,
Yes.
It looked like after the principals had finished addressing, there were some people who started pelting the police with stones.
Yes.
And of course, as a result, any smell of violence.
Yes.
Because again, evidently, you know, the police had come armed to the teeth.
Certainly.
With all sorts of manner of vehicles. I don't know if they were, you know, showcasing them or it was a test.
You could see the cachet of the anti-riot gear that the Kenya police had. And you remember a while back, the Inspector General, Mr. Boynet, had actually said that a lot of money had been put in. They have the water spray system. They have the anti-riot gear for the AP. So I think they were armed to teeth, and it was a good ground for them to test their equipment.
Their equipment.
Yeah,
well.
and indeed on social media there was a joke that the police were actually inviting the CORD brigade to come out in large numbers so that they could test.
They can test the,
Yeah.
the equipment. Well,
Yes.
testing they did, because at some point I even saw one of those trucks that, you know, spray
Yes,
water.
yes.
They were spraying water. I'm not sure whether they were spraying to clean the street, because I didn't seem to see anybody there. But, you know, for one
Yes.
reason or the other, I think they were eager to, you know, try and see whether
Certainly.
they can use that.
And
But anyway,
this was the first time that Kenya is using a water spray
right.
for demonstrations.
For demonstrations.
Yeah.
All right. So the headlines there being Koreans hired to rig election, says CORD. So some strong allegations again here that Koreans are being used by IEBC to rig the
Indeed,
elections.
that's right. Those were the words of the Wiper party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka. Well, such statements, it could be very hard to substantiate. It could be true that the commission had taken some equipment to Korea for programming. It could be a valid exercise.
Right.
But still, because all this is mad in politics, it could be very hard to substantiate. Because at the end of the day, if those kits will be needed, they have to be programmed. They have to be set in working order. So indeed, it could be true that they went to Korea, but the motive remains unknown.
I guess this is where now we, members of the Fourth Estate, could come in and literally separate the politics and the facts.
Certainly.
Because it is true, like you say, they could have gone to Korea for genuine reasons.
Yes.
But when it's put that way, of course, we are left thinking what...
Certainly, and the onus also is on the commission to be more willing to divulge such information. They should give out information. This is our strategy. This is what we are doing in preparation for the next elections.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, still on the front page, senators fight back to lock them out of governance race again. The members of parliament and, well, the National Assembly seeming to put a stop on senators going for gubernatorial seats.
Well, that was a very mischievous move. You're aware the tiff between senators and MPs has been there for a very long time. Such legislations are only there where, for instance, if you serve in a commission such as IBC, a commission that deals with issues to do with elections, it is there in the constitution, then you will be barred from participating in the subsequent general elections.
Right.
A member of the Senate as such, having being that they serve, they represent the interests of the counties in the Senate, it will be unconstitutional to just bar them, because you'll need constitutional amendments for you to bar them. So I think this was just a very mischievous move. It reflects the kind of pull and shove war between senators and MPs.
Let's move on to page 3. State reviews NYS projects as youth circles, 900 million shillings. And this, of course, is a renewal of some of the projects that were taking place.
Right. And, you know, this was a very core plank of the Jubilee manifesto. They really want this project to work, because it will be one of those projects they will look back at and say, we did this for the youth. So, and even the president came out strong. They hired a new person at NYS. Those officers who are under investigation stepped aside, and possible prosecutions are going on. So I think this is a commitment of the state, and they're really looking on it as a key plank of the Jubilee manifesto.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, and on page 4 and 5, you can see the IEBC debate. There's quite some details there and some pictures of what was happening yesterday. An interesting gentleman there, I don't know if we're able to see that picture. He's got a stone on his head, literally almost saying, this is what we came for. But again, of course, they held their peace. And the court did rule that the only way that this would be allowed to go on is if it was within the law, and that of course would be meaning they can picket, they can demonstrate peacefully.
Yes. Also there's a new police riot gear there.
Yep.
And spray tanker.
5 with a spray tanker, and the police looking very eager to use and utilize their equipment. All right, let's move on to page 7, where there was a shopping mall in Mombasa that collapsed, again bringing into sharp focus the construction industry, showing that of course it's not just Nairobi that seems
it's not just Nairobi, it's countrywide. I think there's a lapse of the regulatory systems. I think both the county governments and the ministry should really look into that issue. Yeah, absolutely.
Page 8, another story that is rocking Kenya right now, and as details continue to emerge of the killing of Jacob Juma, it seems there are more questions than answers that are coming out. Juma was killed by 2 bullets to the chest, according to a report.
Certainly so. There are a lot of issues that has come out of this, especially when you look at the photographic evidence of the scene of crime, his motor vehicle. I think there are a lot of issues coming out of it. And certainly so, I think it's a killing that deserves condemnation from all quarters. And it is certainly not a very good move that the 2 senior-most citizens in the country, that is His Excellency the President and the Deputy President, have not uttered a word on this. I think it will be very, very appropriate for them to condemn, because this is a very typical extrajudicial killing. It will be very appropriate for them to condemn it. And then, of course, let the investigations go on.
Absolutely.
Without interference.
Okay, just to mention before we move on to the Nation on page 12 and 13, there is part 2 of a particular article regarding the Eurobond.
Eurobond, yes, it's a big political story. It will continue to be. And Sarah Elderkin has been actually trying to bring out the expose that the central bank has not been very generous with the information. And also just the story that we have looked at, the mysterious killing of Jacob Juma. It had also been said that he had been one of the people who were giving out those leaks on the Eurobond.
In fact, some of the documents found in his car were copies of some Eurobond information.
Yes,
which not many people know why he had it at that time and possibly what he was going to do with it.
Yeah, so
We've
Eurobond
also not been given the details of what exactly it was.
It's going to remain a very big story going forward up to the next elections.
Let's now look at the Daily Nation, where the headlines is police fire tear gas to break up Quad demo. This again, of course, is after Occupy IEBC supporters were addressed by the principals. At some point, it trickled down to tear gas and people running and stones being pelted. And I remember thinking that the university had just been recently opened, and we may have the students also participate in this. But fortunately, they did not, because again, that would be another dimension. But there you go. And the question we're asking today, and maybe I should ask you the same question, is what do you think that excessive force was used to disperse the supporters of Occupy IEBC?
Well, there could have been excessive display of force. But I think to the extent that the police used tear gas to actually disperse those crowds, it was not excessive in itself. So long as the intention was aimed at weeding out those few pockets of people who are aimed at bringing violence. Because in such demonstrations, there will be those people who will target honest wananchi. They'll be harassing motorists. They will be robbing citizens. So I think to the extent that they used it to bring about calm, it was not excessive.
Okay.
Yeah, but the display could have been very excessive.
It could have been very, very excessive. And of course, well, one is left wondering whether they could have used other avenues. But then again, of course, the police, like you've said, came armed and ready and displaying a lot of their armor. And also, I don't know, like now, some of the songs the crowds were chanting is to Mezoea tear gas.
Yes.
Almost preempting that we are waiting and we are ready for it.
Ready for it. Provocating.
Yeah, almost provoking.
Yes.
And it's good that we have the NCIC chair. So one of the things that we'd like to look at is just language, especially as we get closer to the elections. One of the things that, of course, many are worried about is language that is very inciting. Provocative, and it will be also very important for NCIC. There are those politicians who have previously been cited for hate speech. It will be very, very also important for the Commission to play its role and make recommendations for those politicians to be barred from standing in the next election. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, moving on now to other stories within the nation. We have KRA fights for access for mobile cash deals in war of tax sheets. That's on page 8 of the nation. And it looks like KRA is out to ensure that they cover up the deficit, which is a whopping 69.1 billion.
That's very big, and I think it's the right move. There has been a very huge concern on tax leaks. So, and then the M-Pesa platform has been an area which has not been utilized before, because a lot of people tend to move away from the mainstream banking system. They transact through M-Pesa.
Right.
So I think if KRA goes into that, they'll be able to make some progress on it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Then page 10, after the rescue mission, let the scavenging begin. This, of course, is talking about the building that collapsed in Huruma tragedy. But again, just to remind us that this building collapsed, but there were another, I think, was it 7 buildings that had been condemned to be brought down, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen. We do know that the governor had announced and said that he's giving a week for them to be relocated. To move out, to be evacuated.
A few were brought down. And as we were told, at the intervention of the county first lady, the governor's wife, I think she made a petition for those people to be given time so that they get some alternative accommodation for the demolitions to take place.
Okay.
Yes.
Finally, let's look at the back page of the nation. UN criticizes Kenya for plan on refugees. Now, Kenya had announced that they may have to close down 2 main refugee camps. That's Kakuma and Dadaab. And of course, the UNHCR have come out saying that that's a wrong move. It is insensitive. It is inhumane. But then again, there is also the issue of it being sustainable. And Kenya has done this for a while.
Yes, certainly so. Kenya has been between the rock and the deep blue seas. It was an issue of national security. It was an issue of economic interest and also an issue of environmental degradation. Kenya has been this for a very long time without much support from its partners. And I think it's taken the bold step. We were just told the Department of Refugee Affairs has been disbanded right now. So no new refugee can be registered right now. So I think it's a difficult decision, but Kenya's partners will have to come in and they'll have to help the country to repatriate, because that is the biggest challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, just looking at the headlines, the Star is ICC probes 7 Kenyans CS for witness tampering, going back to the ICC. And we do know that Fatou Bensouda has requested for 3 Kenyans to be sent to the ICC. Well,
ICC also will still remain a very big story. It is coming out more authoritatively that indeed there was witness tampering in this process of ICC. So it remains to be seen if ICC will keep to its word, and if the Kenyan government will indeed extradite. It will be a huge tall order for that.
A big story. Well, thank you very much, William Okech, for going through the papers with us, and that's where we're going to wind up our newspaper review. But do stay with us right here on Morning Express. Coming up next is Person of Interest, so don't go away.